Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first episode of the Before the Buzzer podcast. Today's episode is a little bit special. We'll be talking about the NBA Finals today. We'll talk about the Miami Heat, the Los Angeles Lakers, and then cover some of the top teams and players in the impending free agency period. Hang around and see what we think. I'm Travis.
I'm Cody.
I'm Jeff.
And today we'll be talking about a few things as we said in the intro. So with no further ado, let's get into it. So let's talk about the Miami Heat in the finals. I think that the biggest thing we need to talk about and the most important thing, the takeaway that we need to kind of get out there is Jimmy Butler is an absolute warrior.
Definitely.
Yeah, that dude went crazy in the finals. He definitely put on a great performance. He played his heart out. And for them to be the underdogs and come in and bring the Lakers to 6, or even make it to the finals in general, and then also fight with the Lakers at 6 games, definitely a crazy performance. One of the best that we've seen in the finals. Just his heart and his hustle. I mean, you could see it. He was like he's putting all out there.
It's the most minutes per game I've seen in a series in a very long time, of him averaging 43 minutes per game and playing 47 minutes in Game 5.
Yeah, he only rested 42 or 43 seconds, so he played. If you were to look at the TV at any given moment, there's a 99% chance Jimmy Butler was on the floor in that game, and that's ridiculous.
Right, and Jimmy expanded his game. Like, he rose to the moment. Like, I've never seen Jimmy Butler play like that. I mean, he damn near got a triple-double every night. Like, that's like LeBron numbers in the finals, and he did that. And I just think that's crazy. Like, he rose to the expectations of the finals, and he definitely delivered, but his team just came up short. That's nothing against Jimmy. I mean, I don't think he could have played any better.
The first playoff berth in Timberwolves' recent history
since like 2004,
since Kevin Garnett was there, was under Jimmy Butler, his leadership. And, I mean, you've seen it time and time again. His teams are successful. The Bulls, that was not his fault. We don't need to talk about the Bulls. But, I mean, all in all, the Bulls would have taken out the Celtics, the first-seed Celtics, in the first round if Rondo hadn't gone down. But Jimmy Butler is a leader. He's underestimated in that right, I think. And he can shoot when it matters, which is odd. He pulled out the Shaq. He'll hit him down the stretch. And I just think that he's really underestimated in that manner, and it's time for him to get his damn respect. And we'll talk a little bit about LeBron's speech later, but
I think we can compare his run to what Kawhi Leonard did last year with the Raptors. I mean, they came in as the underdog, not expected to reach the finals, and they got there and they executed and they came out with the win. Unfortunately, Jimmy Butler did not, but I think you can compare those two runs as some of the greatest runs that we've seen in recent history, for sure, from an individual player and from a team aspect. From becoming the underdogs and make it to the finals.
I would agree. I would say that if Jimmy Butler was given the same situation and circumstance that Kawhi Leonard was, where the opposing team's second best player having a torn Achilles, I don't see Miami going down. I see Miami winning in 6 games. Whether it's Anthony Davis or LeBron that goes down, that team without both of those guys isn't half as strong as it is with them. So.
I'm saying specifically, if you take out Anthony Davis, the Heat has a much easier time than LeBron James, personally, just because the Heat struggled at the big man position, keeping Anthony Davis guarded when there was anyone out there besides Bam.
Right, and Bam was out for how many games? 2? 2.5-ish, I think.
Yeah, because he went out in the first game.
Right, exactly.
All right, well, yeah, so Jimmy Butler had a crazy run. I think we should move on to Bam now. We just
right,
brought
to
up
spin
Bam,
directly
so.
off that, I think, Bam's a big part of that team, and he's probably the centerpiece moving forward, and rightfully so.
Right. I thought so after I saw him playing over Whiteside during the regular season when he first got drafted. I noticed that the kid had a lot of potential and that he seemed like a pretty dominant big already coming into the league, and he's obviously even grown since then. I believe it's his 3rd year now in the NBA.
Yeah, because I think in the Celtics series, he led the Heat in assists per game. Like, I'm pretty sure that was a stat. Also, to have a big man that can be your defensive anchor, and then turn around and run the offense on the other end, like, that's something special. That's something that's very valuable and something you don't see very often.
I was going to say, with Jokic, I see it, but I don't really see much of the defensive anchor.
Oh no, Bam Adebayo is definitely a way better defender. And athleticism's off the chart. and he even has that that pull up mid range. We saw in the skills challenge he can step back and hit the three, but like in game that's not really there yet.
No.
And I don't really think the Heat need him to do that because of how versatile he is on the other aspect. I think you want him in the paint instead of on the three. So he does have a three ball, but I don't see the Heat utilizing that. But I think Bam can be one of the most valuable assets in the NBA in the next coming years because just how versatile he is, and like he can guard 1 through 5, so the switch everything defense that the Heat are playing, Bam can switch on anybody and have a pretty successful outcome on the defensive end, no matter who he's guarding.
I would agree, and just a few nitty gritty stat things. Bam during the regular season this year, he played 72 games, 82 last season, so he's not an injury risk really in most circumstances. Obviously, we saw a little bit of a different situation in the playoffs, specifically in the finals. But he averaged 16, 10, and 5 this season, and he's only 22 years old. So he's got a long way to go, still a long journey in terms of growth, but he has a very high ceiling. And he played 33 minutes a game and played 72 of them. So with those kind of numbers, you can't argue that he's what you need to be building around, because Jimmy Butler, as good as he was in the finals, isn't going, first of all, he's not getting any younger, and secondly, he's not going to put up that kind of performance all year round.
Right. And
I mean, one thing about Bam Adebayo in his game is he's got good shooters also put around him currently in Miami. So with the playmaking ability and the ability that you have to guard him in the paint no matter what, it opens up his shooters quite well. He just fits perfectly with the team's current system.
And that 16, 10, and 5 that you said he averaged, that contributed to winning basketball. I mean, we see players like Karl-Anthony Towns put up numbers that are a lot better than that, but they're not contributing to winning. And also credit to Spoelstra for putting him in the right positions to succeed.
Absolutely. I think that coaching is something that is either way too heavily, kind of relied on in terms of cases like Steve Kerr, where he was given the best, most talented team in the league and deemed a super coach. But not necessarily enough in cases where Eric Spoelstra, for example, is leading a team that is under-weaponed, undermanned, has struggled through injuries to only lose in 6 against the best team in basketball right now.
Right. Spo earned a lot of respect for this playoff run. A lot of respect.
As a Miami Heat fan, I personally underestimated Coach Spoelstra's coaching ability just because of him leading a super team for his very first couple of seasons, and then there being the dark age of no Dwayne Wade, no Chris Bosh in Miami, and the team struggling to make playoffs or not even reach them sometimes. But this proves, I think, that I underestimated him as a coach and that he is actually much better and well fit for the position than I thought.
I would agree.
Watching that offense that Spoelstra put through his players was so frustrating against the Celtics. I mean, every offensive play that Miami Heat had, I was frustrated watching it because they just ran it so well and they got their shooters open, and if the shooters weren't open, they had to dunk. So it was very frustrating to watch. Definitely good play, and a lot of that has to do with Bam running the offense at the center position, and also Jimmy Butler being Jimmy Butler. So all right, so I think we're talking about Spoel. We should probably move on to some of the role players.
Right, and I think the way that he integrates those role players perfectly, like guys like Duncan Robinson, Duncan Robinson didn't, there was a stretch where he hadn't taken a 2-point attempt in months, but that's because his strongest attribute is his shooting, and that's exactly what he should be doing. There's guys like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo who need to go to the paint to be the most effective, so I think that team is one, credit to Pat Riley for building such a team in that way, and a team that has potential to be successful for years to come, but also to Spoelstra for using everybody to their best ability.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, you got, Duncan Robinson undrafted, Kendrick Nunn, who did step up in the finals as well. When Dragic went down, they put Nunn back. So Nunn went from not even being in the rotation to then coming off the bench and putting up really, really good numbers in the finals and proving that he does deserve a roster spot, even though he struggled early on in the playoffs. But they got Nunn, who's undrafted. Duncan Robinson, who's undrafted. Hero is drafted, 13th or 14th?
13th, I believe.
13th, yep.
Yeah, 13th. He got Bam at 13, 14. I think Dragic was second round. Crowder was second round. Like, they got a bunch of dogs on that team who have a chip on their shoulder to prove that they belong in the league, especially versus the Lakers when you got multiple like number one picks, Anthony Davis, LeBron. Like, they've been in the spotlight ever since high school. So for them to, so for the guys on the Heat to earn their spotlight versus the guys that's had it for 10 plus years, it's definitely another chip that they had versus the Lakers, and it definitely showed.
Right, and in game one, Goran Dragic went out only having played 15 minutes. Kendrick Nunn played 20 minutes, put up 18 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. I think that was his highest scoring game of the series, and although they lost, it would have been an absolute murder had he not stepped up the way he did. And then, I mean, role players in game 2, Kelly Olynyk had 24 points. Kendrick Nunn had another 13. It's just these guys that can come out of nowhere and put up big points. I mean, Tyler Hero has played phenomenally all series, being a rookie. That's rather impressive. But it's just Miami's so well built. It's a next man up kind of team, and you don't actually see a lot of that.
It just honestly came down to the Lakers stars outplaying the Heat stars. There's nothing against the Heat stars, but you got LeBron James, Anthony Davis. Like, it's hard to outplay them. Like it's
Right.
like, especially LeBron in the finals. Like, it's very, very hard to outplay him.
You look at them on paper, and I mean, obviously they are better than the Heat stars. Really, where the Heat were able to step up was because of their role players and them just having much better, well-rounded team than the Los Angeles Lakers and their two-headed offense.
Right. And when you look at the Miami Heat's roster, you see maybe 2 or 3 guys that are going to go out and get you 15, 20 points consistently. Those guys are Bam, Jimmy Butler, and Goran Dragic. 2 of 3 of those were out for at least a third of the series. But every night, somebody you wouldn't normally expect to put up big numbers. Game 4, Duncan Robinson put up 17 points. Game 6, Duncan Robinson put up, 30, 27?
I think it was
26.
Yeah, 26. He had like 8 threes.
Yeah. Yeah, third most threes in a finals game ever. It's just incredible performances by all of these guys. I mean, you just can't discount that.
Yeah, so just to add on to the Miami injuries, if none of those guys got injured, which unfortunately that they did, I think they would have brought the Lakers to 7, but I still think the Lakers would have pulled it out. Just because it's a star league. I mean, you see dynamic duos being created all around the league because that's what you need to win. In the Lakers' dynamic duo, it's just better than Miami's. So I think the Lakers would have pulled it out in either 6 or 7 games.
Right, I would agree.
With that statement. I do think the Heat would have been able to push it to a 7, though, especially if they had a fully healthy Goran Dragic for Game 6. Even would have been
right.
Just to take some of the playmaking load off Jimmy and let him focus more of his 43 minutes worth of energy on. Shutting down, playing better defense. Or I'm not saying he slacked on. It was a slouch on either end, to compensate for what he was doing on the opposite end. But what I am saying is it's absolutely draining to do so much for your team in that many minutes. And I think that if somebody could have taken a little bit more of the playmaking load, that would have been even more help.
So I think we already clicked on Miami's future, but once we go more in depth with that, I mean, Miami's got a great future. Jimmy is getting older, and some of the role players are getting older, like Dragic and Crowder. They also have to pay this offseason, so that's going to be interesting what they're going to do, because they're also in pursuit of Giannis, which the way they played in the finals, that just strengthens their chance of getting him. But if they sign Dragic and Crowder to bigger deals, then that's going to lock up more cap space. So we'll have to see what they do there. They might have to take a step back next year to take 3 steps forward and get Giannis Antetokounmpo. But that's going to have to be a risk that Pat Riley's going to have to analyze and just really think about and ultimately make a decision. And Pat Riley is like one of the best GMs in the league, one of the best GMs of all time, and coaches. So I believe he'll make the right decision for what he feels based on his chances.
I think that we saw this season that provided Giannis doesn't join an already established championship potential team, Miami doesn't need a guy like Giannis. Miami might just need one of the guys that we're going to talk about a little bit later with free agency starting on Monday. The only problem is they are paying some of their role players a lot of money. Andre Iguodala is making between 10 and 15 million, right? $15 million.
15
I think it's 15.
15, and he's still on the books for the next year or so. So that's really going to hurt him. I think that it's just they're in a disadvantaged position in terms of cap space, but they don't necessarily need a guy like Giannis, in my opinion. They need maybe a significantly better backup center because Myers Leonard and Kelly Olynyk, although they did step up at times, don't really D up at all, ever. Not in the way that they're used to in the starting lineup. I think a guy like Serge Ibaka would do a lot of favors for them, or even an Aaron Baines, kind of just a paint anchor.
Right. But
I
I'm
would
saying
say
that
Hassan Whiteside, but we've all seen how that works out in Miami. So
yeah, that's not what they need. But if you have a chance to get Antetokounmpo, you go for him. Because like if they have Antetokounmpo in that series, it's over. The Heat are gonna win that. Yeah, take
Right.
off Crowder,
Heat probably win
Iguodala,
in 5 or
Dragic.
6.
Like the Heat win. Like there's no like if you have a three-headed monster of Butler, Bam, and Antetokounmpo, you could fill your lineup like the Lakers did this year. You know, like just like some good outside shooters, some role players. You know, maybe get like a Rajon Rondo off the bench type player.
Right, even if you end up with a stonemason laying bricks like Danny Green, you still win the championship. So
Right, because you got, I mean, like Butler, Antetokounmpo, and Bam Adebayo, and they all play hard on defense, and they all play hard on offense. You
Right.
like
and then you put guys like Tyler Hero and Duncan
You will-
Robinson around them to space the floor.
you would not want to play that team because they'll beat you mentally, physically, and just like destroy you. Like they're like,
emotionally.
Right.
emotion, like you would be so defeated after getting blown out by 20 by that team.
absolutely, I would agree.
So
And
I
then-
think they probably, I don't know. We'll have to see how they feel because they could they definitely have a chance to run it back because Robinson's young, Hero's young, Bam's young,
None is young.
none is young. But Crowder's got a few more good years. We'll see what Iguodala does. I feel like after this contract is over, he's not going to be valued that much.
No, after his current contract days
so-
where he signed with Miami, I believe that's kind of it for Andre Iguodala
Right.
personally. Besides being a deep role player like Udonis has him.
One more second. I think that the biggest knock on Giannis has been his inability to win. But if you watch his teams in the previous few years where he had chances to go and make deep playoff runs, his best players, Chris Middleton, Eric Bledsoe, his shooters more specifically, fold. And we've seen that Miami has a bunch of guys on that team that don't fold under pressure. They
will not
kind of shine in that kind of environment, and I think that Giannis might be a really good fit. And my point saying that they didn't need Giannis was more of from a realistic cap space perspective, but obviously you're right. If you can get Giannis, you get him. So
Well, they made the necessary moves to be able to have cap space for him next season, but they also made those moves. Like I don't know. I mean, yeah, like you say it now, but I don't really know if realistically that the front office thought they could make the finals. I mean, I don't think anybody had them making the finals. From a GM's perspective, like to begin the season, I don't think they thought they had enough pieces, so they cleared up space for Giannis. But now that they've seen that their team can win, it's a different ball game this offseason for them for sure.
agreed.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Los Angeles.
Actually, so before we go on to Los Angeles, you got breaking news. Daryl Morey got done with the Rockets.
I heard that. I just actually
Yeah.
saw that. That popped up on my phone.
Yeah, after
think,
13 seasons, he left.
I think he left because he was gonna kind of get the boot from the ownership group. But if I had to guess, it's just he's put together so many teams that didn't work.
Right.
They might work on paper, but you put Russell Westbrook and James Harden together. But the last time they were successful, they had possibly the best scorer, most dynamic scorer of all time, Kevin Durant, with them. I mean, you have to think realistically about these things. PJ Tucker, Daniel House, these guys are no replacement for a 24-year-old Kevin Durant. So I think that it was probably in the Rockets' best interest to kind of have Daryl Morey walk out the door and start fresh with something else.
Right, and honestly, that team, depending on what the new GM wants to do, there's a lot of work, a lot of pieces to be moved.
Agreed. And
Because
they have some solid pieces.
Because that team was built custom to D'Antoni and Daryl Morey, and
Right.
for whatever coach and new GM step up in that organization, they have a lot of work to do to shift some pieces around. Because
Right.
I don't know what coach want to walk into that, because that style of play from D'Antoni, like no other team was doing relatively close to that. Right. No other coach does that. My bad. And then also for the GM to get the pieces that coach wants, by the start of next season, it's going to be very tough. And honestly, I think it's been kind of hard to move Westbrook because
That's a big bag.
it's a big contract, and he didn't really play like that well. I mean, he played better once Capella was gone, but that's like I don't know where you'd implement him. I don't know what team would trade for him. Maybe the Bucks, but
what team do you want a point guard to come in and also play as your center on the rebounding end? I mean, like most centers are gonna want their boards. Westbrook wants his boards.
Yeah.
Westbrook wants everything.
Yeah.
It's just a very hard situation to find a team that's going to want someone like him. Unless you try to build around him, of course.
Right. So we'll talk about the Rockets later on. We got a little sidetracked there, but I just figured I'd say that because it did happen during the recording. So yeah, Daryl Morey left the Rockets. So now we'll go on to the Lakers side of the finals, which is a bit more. They won, so different.
Yeah.
So different perspectives from it.
So right, and Anthony Davis is expected to decline his player option and then re-sign. So it's looking like they're keeping their two most valuable players, which was expected.
Anthony Davis and Danny Green.
Right, of course. No, Danny Green. You know what? He won a ring. I don't care. It's like his third championship. So.
But did he deserve this one? I feel like he at least had some sort of impact on the last two.
If he was designed to be a franchise player and folded like that, then no, he doesn't. But he's Danny Green, always has been and always will be. So with that said, I think that we should talk about LeBron first. Obviously, the star in LA, arguably the best player of all time, depending on who you are. The best player in the world, possibly right now, depending on who you are. And it's funny because nobody is going to call Anthony Davis the best player in the league, but some people say he's the best player on that team. So I guess it all depends on how you look at it. But so LeBron James, he had another incredible finals performance, finals MVP, which was really no doubt in anyone's mind after Game 2 who the finals MVP was. From Game 3 on, I should say.
Yeah, he was voted unanimous. He got all 11. He went 11 for 11 for votes. I think there was 11 voters for the MVP.
Right. So who does the Finals MVP voted? Is it the 11 most valuable media members, or is it kind of like the MVP race but scaled down?
I'm like Bill Russell's got to have a vote, right? Like Bill Russell's got to have a vote.
Right.
I'd hope.
They probably have like 10 media members and then Bill Russell. I don't. Yeah, I honestly have no idea who votes for MVP.
As long as Colin Cowherd doesn't get a vote, I don't care.
Voting for
obviously Colin Cowherd did not because he would not have voted LeBron.
Right. He would have voted Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for a 16-point performance once.
Because it's got a better narrative to it.
Right.
Well, of course. It's about the narrative. Come on. Anyway, so LeBron James, he played really well. There was a few games where it looked like Anthony Davis was going to be the favorite for Finals MVP. Game 1, he had 34, 9, and 5. I mean, he just played really well throughout the whole series. He played really well for the most part. He had one bad game, but second game, him and LeBron, 32 and 33 points each, brought it a little bit closer, and then obviously you had that kind of bad game, 33 minutes, only 15 points. Miami kind of figured him out after that. It was LeBron who killed him at that point, but I think that it was definitely, I don't know if it should have been a unanimous Finals MVP, but with only 11 votes, it's kind of hard to say that it shouldn't be in a way.
I don't think it should have been unanimous because of Anthony. Well, I would have voted for LeBron, but Anthony Davis had such a larger impact on the defensive end. He definitely was a presence, especially for the guards trying to get in the paint. Like he was meeting them every single time.
Exactly.
So his defensive presence was more on LeBron, but like LeBron just seemed more in control. Like LeBron seemed most in control out of the Lakers or the Heat. I mean, like it was 11th time being there on that stage, so he knew exactly what to do and he got it done.
Agreed.
Obviously, LeBron's age is not slowing him down yet. We learned that this finals.
I saw a kind of hot take. It was saying that if 35-year-old LeBron met 28-year-old LeBron in the finals, he would destroy him, and I thought that was interesting to think about because LeBron is possibly better overall now in the finals than he was at 28 years old, and I think that's kind of a product of the changing game, but also he's adapted and he's really learned to shine in these big moments, whereas he used to fold a little bit, having that awful performance against Indiana in the playoffs.
And then Dallas,
Obviously,
too.
right, and just folding under, kind of losing to Jason Terry and
Folding
Dirk.
under the AC.
Right, that was the Spurs.
Yeah.
But I mean, also, like, you cannot, like, LeBron will never be able to match his defensive intensity the 4 years he was with the Heat.
I would agree.
Like,
I would agree.
I feel like that was the best LeBron that we've seen, but LeBron now is more wise than he ever was.
I think he might be a better winner.
And
than ever.
he knows how to win, and his playmaking ability is off the chart.
I'd say he's a much better playmaker than he was during that.
Absolutely, he led the league in assists this year as a 6'9" small forward, power forward, center, shooting guard, point guard, whatever he is, with 10.2. I mean,
he's whatever he wants.
Game 6, 28-point triple double.
And then
that kind of stuff is just
also
unreal for a guy who's 35 years old.
Game 5, he damn near got a 40-point triple double, shot 6 from 8 from 3.
Right.
That would have, if you would have hit the game winner, if you would have hit the game winner of that game, that would have been crazy.
Right.
I know we talked
a lot about Jimmy Butler's damn near triple double every single game, but LeBron did the exact same thing. I mean, game 2,
well, LeBron's been
33, 9 and 9, and then game 3, like 25, 9 and 10 or whatever it was. It's crazy because Jimmy Butler's getting all the praise in the world as he deserves, but LeBron James has been doing this for years.
Well,
it's incredible.
That's just LeBron fatigue. I mean, you hear it all the time, like with MVP award. I mean, that dude, he could have won MVP this year, but since it's LeBron fatigue, like the media is just like sick of voting him in. So he's putting up triple doubles almost every finals now in the past 5 years, but it's just kind of flown under the radar because what he does now. Like Jimmy Butler coming out, raising his game to the finals is something to look at. Like LeBron's been there for a couple years.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think
LeBron
that
at this point, I feel like as well.
I think that no matter what the argument for MVP is, whether it's best overall player or player with the biggest impact on their team, that I don't think that was LeBron this year, personally. The duo of LeBron James and Anthony Davis barely beat out Paul George, who is not a superstar in my mind, a star without a doubt, and Kawhi Leonard, who is a superstar. They beat them in the West by 3.5 games. The Milwaukee Bucks had a better record. Giannis had better stats in almost every way, and Anthony Davis led the Lakers in almost every stat category minus assists, I believe. So I would say that statistically he didn't have
for regular season MVP. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't know where you're going with that.
Yeah, regular
I don't
season,
think
I would say.
Be honest.
No, I think Giannis was probably deserving of the MVP. I just don't know who would be more deserving, whether it's having the biggest impact on their team because his second best player is Chris Middleton and they had the best record in the league, and on paper he looked the best outside of James Harden if you ignore the shooting splits.
Right, yeah, no, I made a mistake about that. Giannis definitely did deserve it, but I'm saying that LeBron isn't counted in as much for MVP anymore. One, because he takes a step back in the regular season and he still puts up a almost 25-point triple-double. But also like LeBron fatigue is a thing. Like for example of this, he almost averaged a triple double in the playoffs, and so did Jimmy Butler. But Jimmy Butler is highlighted more because he stepped up to the occasion and he performed in the finals when it mattered most. Like LeBron's been doing that. He's been averaging triple doubles in the finals ever since he went back to Cleveland. So I'm saying that's why it's flying on the radar for LeBron because he's been doing that.
Yeah, no doubt. I would agree with that. That was just kind of on the argument of LeBron James, and that was kind of on his to talk about a little bit about his speech. He said that the Lakers want their respect, the organization as a whole, the management wants their respect, Rob Pelinka wants his respect, and LeBron wants his damn respect too. And I think that it's fine. I mean, out of context, without actually hearing it, when I first heard about it, I was like, that's really. Like saying you want your damn respect, that's tough. But I did listen to the speech, and it's a little bit less polarizing and pisses me off a little bit less having actually heard it. But I also don't think that it was worth anything. His speech, it didn't do anything for him. The people who don't respect you are just haters. They're just gonna hate. They're not gonna like anything you do. I personally don't think he's the GOAT. I just don't think that the first half of his career was as great as it could have been. His finals runs came up empty just too many times. He's been swept twice, and only one of those times was by a team that probably should have swept him.
Would argue that point when you said that haters are gonna hate no matter what. So no matter what he would have said during his speech, they're still gonna hate. So it didn't really matter what he said.
Right, but I'm saying he kind of wasted his breath speaking to the people.
I mean,
I think don't like him when he could have just spoken to the people who have supported him and kind of made a better statement about that. There's just no need to say I want my respect, because nobody who doesn't respect you is going to hear you say that and think, yeah, okay, that's a guy I respect now. Respect is earned, not necessarily given, and he's earned the respect, but he's just not going to get it.
I mean, he should at least get more respect now that he won his fourth championship. Like I'm sick and tired of the LeBron had help argument. I mean, like Jordan, three-peated 2 different times, and that like a three-peat is like one of the most rare accomplishments in sports. And for him to do it twice, I think that puts him above him. But for him to saying that LeBron had help every year he won a championship, I mean, everybody has help. I don't know one NBA player that won a championship all on his own. Like him, like it's him and then it's the rest of the guys. It's always been a number 2 or a number 3.
I would agree.
I think what people argue about there is like the quality though of LeBron's help. How much of the load is LeBron carrying? How much of the load is LeBron's help carrying, as opposed to, I'm assuming you're referring to Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman.
Well, no, it doesn't matter. I mean, you got Bird, McHale and Parrish. I mean, you got. I mean, Dirk.
I believe Dirk, every championship team like
Dirk and Jason Kidd, right? Wasn't Jason Kidd on that team?
Yeah. You have
was he
Kawhi Leonard?
Oh, I guess he was, but
Pascal Siakam.
I think I'm pretty sure the second greatest performer on that team was Sixth Man of the Year, Jason Terry.
You can make that argument.
Like at the Warriors, they had either Steph or Clay, or Steph, Clay, KD, Steph, Clay, and Draymond. Like everybody has
Kidd
help
wasn't
to
carrying
win
much
the finals.
of the load, but
I feel like Kawhi didn't have that much help when he won Toronto. That's the only one I can think of personally that like I feel like there wasn't really like there was a 2 there like Pascal Siakam, but he wasn't some like superstar or like all borderline star.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, in that scenario, actually no, I can't really make an argument for that. You're kind of right about that. I wouldn't say the Warriors were a little injured, but like not to the point where they should have lost that series.
I think the best player I would agree, but just to kind of loop back on the LeBron thing, Jason Kidd was on that team, but he was not playing very well.
Okay.
However, Dwayne Wade was the best player in that series. Dirk Nowitzki played phenomenally, but Dwayne Wade played better than LeBron. And that was kind of like the argument, I think, for a lot of people. LeBron had help because LeBron's help in their first finals in Miami. I think the Miami championships absolutely mean less than Jordan's championships because of the quality of help that he had was so much better than every other great. I mean, Michael Jordan had a 2 in Scottie Pippen, but he didn't have a 3. His Dennis Rodman was no Chris Bosh. He rebounded, but he couldn't carry the scoring load if Jordan didn't have a good night.
Yeah, but Rodman also covered the best matchup, like for the game.
Michael Jordan was the defensive player of the year.
Yeah, but I would think that Rodman covered the best player down the stretch.
I think you'd be wrong about that, actually.
I think any of those 3 guys of that Chicago Big 3 could. I mean, they're all great defensively, but Michael Jordan, I do believe, was better all-around defense. Rodman was a great rebounder, but Jordan could guard the 1 and 2 much better than Rodman could. And Scottie Pippen could guard 1 through 5, obviously.
Scottie Pippen could absolutely. I think if anybody were to guard the best player going down the stretch and it wasn't Michael Jordan, it would be Scottie Pippen rather than Dennis Rodman. I think Dennis Rodman, his biggest assignment was stay in the paint and please leave us alone out here on the perimeter. It was a different NBA. I mean, I don't like to compare the eras necessarily. I think it's kind of a dumb argument. LeBron's the best player of our generation, and Michael Jordan is the best player of that generation. I don't. If there had to be a GOAT debate, I'm going with Jordan just because he's the most efficient winner in NBA history. 2 3-peats followed. I mean.
So would you
immediately by retirement?
Would you put Scottie Pippen over D Wade?
No.
I don't know if I would in terms of all-around player. He's a better defender, absolutely.
And I wouldn't.
He's more
put
versatile.
Scottie
And he's a better player. Pippen's a better playmaker too.
I don't know if I would agree with that. Dwayne Wade could play the point guard.
I mean, not really set up his teammates though. I mean, Pippen was like the point guard of that team at the 3.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was like a point
Dwayne
forward.
Wade
He was a defensive point
kinda...
forward, I believe. But Dwayne Wade also legitimately just played point guard for several seasons and was leading scorer in the NBA before LeBron joined there.
Wade was a way better scorer than Pippen, but Pippen was better defensively and better at playmaking.
I would say he's marginally better at playmaking if you had to draw a direct comparison. I think that their ability is different. I think Dwayne Wade had the ability to guard 1 through 3, whereas Pippen had the ability to guard 1 through 5, and that's just height. That's just a height disadvantage. But Dwayne Wade's scoring, it 30 points a game.
It
2
does
years before
overmatch
LeBron
Pippen's.
showed up.
Yeah.
2 years before LeBron showed up, Dwayne Wade led the league in scoring, and LeBron's first year there, Dwayne Wade averaged 25 points a game. It's the gap in terms, and then the fact that we're directly comparing Pippen and Wade, and then we are completely neglecting Chris Bosh as the third man who could average 20 points a game and 10 rebounds and carry the scoring load. He played point guard for a game, like he was versatile. I think that is kind of that's enough evidence to say that LeBron had more help in Miami. However, LeBron never had as much help as Jordan had when LeBron played in Cleveland either time. I don't think Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving together compared to what, especially not in the playoffs, compared to what Scottie Pippen would do for Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
If I had to say.
Yeah, no, I'll eat my words. I'll back that. He was definitely the best player or the best team that LeBron was with when it comes from a coaching aspect, a role player, and then the stars. Yeah, no, I'll eat my words on that one.
Right. Who was the coach the first year that David Blatt? Nobody's ever heard of him, bro.
Dude, that was
gosh.
That was Cleveland front office at its finest right there.
Exactly.
That's Cleveland front office trying to impersonate New York Knicks front office.
We don't even know. I don't even want to get. I don't even want to start with Cleveland front office. We don't even need to go there. We're going way out.
We don't even have enough time for that.
We don't even need to go there.
Let's go back to the Lakers. So
Not only I was gonna say I don't even have enough time for that.
Do we think they're running it back this year?
But the 2K simulation can do better than the Cavs. That's all I'm gonna say.
The Lakers running it back. I don't think so. I've talked to you guys a little bit about this off recording, but I think that I just don't see the Clippers organization. I don't want to get too deep into the actual people and teams that I think specifically can beat the Lakers, but Giannis returns to Milwaukee. I think that eventually he's got to come out of the East. If he keeps playing there, eventually Giannis is going to come out of the East. I think it's this year. I think that he learned a lot about winning. I think that he had a lot of time to prepare in the offseason. And I think that with probably a shortened season because they're starting in January, I don't know if the playoffs are going to be pushed back a little bit. I assume that at some point they'd like to get back to the regular schedule of things starting in October and finishing in May or June.
It'll probably be a very slow shift. I assume that they'll probably do a few weeks or like a month per season
at a time.
Right. But I think that it'll not be a full 82-game season this year. I think that the NBA might shift to a shorter season, maybe 70-something games in general, just as an injury and to kind of get rid of load management.
And entertainment, because after 40 games, you're just waiting for the playoffs at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I would say I don't think they're gonna do it. I think that LeBron's getting older, and eventually his age is gonna catch up with him. I'm not saying it's gonna be this season because we just saw him have a phenomenal playoff and finals performance. However, I would say that I just think that next year is going to be a different story. I think there's a lot of teams that could have taken out the Lakers this year, and they just didn't. The NBA is more balanced right now than it's probably ever been since we were, people who could actually form legitimate opinions. I mean, I think the last time the NBA was this balanced was probably the late 2000s, right before LeBron went to Miami, and that still wasn't very balanced.
Well,
I don't know. They were still the Spurs.
I mean, players are getting better.
Yeah, everyone is getting better. People who we thought weren't so good have been obviously stepping up and showing that when not surrounded by superstars, they can step up and be
also,
stars.
I mean, like in the bubble, like the players that exploded in the bubble.
T.J. Warren,
Devin
Booker.
It's a lot different shooting an empty gym. Like the depth possession is totally different.
I would agree with that.
I mean, I'm not trying to knock Lillard's performance, Warren's performance, Jamal Murray. The guys that really stepped up. Like the people you didn't expect to step up. Even LeBron from three, he had a pretty good shooting percentage from three, and in the bubble, and that could do to the empty gym.
I would agree with that.
But
I think it could have a role.
I have complete confidence that the Lakers can run it back because they have the best duo in the league. I think they're above Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. They're above Giannis and Middleton.
I would say that either one of those guys is probably better than any one of the. Like I think Anthony Davis and LeBron are the best two players in the league.
Right.
Maybe not.
So
maybe
when you have this argument's made a lot. 2 out of the top 5, you're going to get a chance. But the only issue is they have a lot of expiring contracts and a lot of people to bring back, and a lot of the guys that they signed were kind of 1-year rentals. So they're going to have to run that back again. They're going to have to get more rentals. They're going to have to sign people for more 1-year deals. And unfortunately, this free agency, it's pretty much just role players or glorified role players
that are going to be making a lot of money because there's nobody.
Right. So those role players
who are ready to make a run.
Right, and those players are going to get paid more than their value because there's nobody else to pay. But I think I think Rob Pelinka and LeBron, they're gonna get some good guys up in there, and I believe they can run it back. Because when your core is LeBron and Anthony Davis, we just heard that Anthony Davis, he's pretty much already signed, signed in the Lakers again. When your core is LeBron, Anthony Davis, you have a lot of leeway.
I agree. Your only issue comes into play there is your cap hold. Obviously, it would be much more difficult to bring in another star or superstar.
Well, since
you can obviously put great role players around them because they want to play there.
Since you're re-signing a player, you can go into luxury tax.
That's also true.
Unless that's
if the organization is willing to pay the luxury tax, and I think with Anthony Davis actually. Because he was traded, he's going to have bird rights, like the Larry Bird clause. So they can go over the cap to re-sign him.
Right.
But they'd have to re-sign him after they signed all the role players. And I just don't know how well that's going to work out for them. We'll see. It'll be interesting. Free agency starts on Monday. And I think with that, we should move on to talk a little bit about free agency. So there's some key guys. And I think that for the key guys, we have a few here on our list that we kind of want to keep our eye on. I think that we could talk maybe a little bit about the player individually and then where we think they might fit best or a team that maybe needs them most. So
let's start off, I guess, with
I was going to say the first guy.
We can start with Van Vliet.
Yeah.
So Van Vliet this year averaged 17, 6 assists in shooting, 40% from 3 and 40% from the field. That's very good numbers. Some team is going to pay him close to the max, I believe.
I would say that that's probably true. That's 17.6 points, almost 4 rebounds, and 6+ assists and 2 steals. He's an underrated defender. Of course, he's 6 feet tall. It's kind of like the Steph defender thing, And he's 26, so I don't see him sticking with the Raptors just to be loyal. I think he knows that he needs to go get paid.
Right, and
He's not getting any younger. He's coming into his prime, and he just had the season of his life. I think he's going to go anywhere that they think he can get a max.
And team in desperation mode to get some kind of buzz going is going to give him good money. And
right.
And like, it's too bad for the Raptors, but I don't think the Raptors should like jump out and try to max whatever contract he gets from another team. Because some team is going to overpay him. Like, he's a very, very solid player with more potential. But some team is going to offer him damn near a max.
Yeah, I can see, I can absolutely see a team like the New York Knicks throwing $25 million at the guy, right? Even though they know damn well he's not really what they need to turn their organization around. Although if they trade up to the Warriors pick and try to take LaMelo, that may change.
I think
it's hard to say, but he could. I think Van Vliet ends up on a team like the Bulls, Pistons, Magic, or Knicks.
I would like to see him on the Suns.
I think that'd be interesting, but with Devin Booker's huge contract, DeAndre Ayton's coming up soon. Ricky Rubio, I don't know if is he expiring or is he still there? Because I think he has $12 million a year ish.
I think he has one more year there. I might be wrong on that.
I don't know if Phoenix has the room for it, but if they could make the room, it'd be an interesting team.
Right, with only $12 million,
make the playoffs.
Like only $12 million for Rubio, like that's a contract that can easily be moved.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
well, like,
I would move in terms of Fred VanVleet. I would much.
And honestly, being in Phoenix, I mean, I can't remember the last time they like signed a good free agent.
Never.
Me either.
I mean,
all they've done is
I don't know if
trade.
they ever have.
They drafted Nash, traded him, and then got him back.
Stoudemire, was he a free agent signing?
I'm not sure. Just like nobody goes to Phoenix.
Drafted there.
Really, because they've been bad for a while. But it's like, you know, like we saw back in Denver's case a couple years ago. They paid Paul Millsap a max contract. He hasn't made the All-Star team since he's been on the Nuggets. But like with Phoenix, they kind of have to do the same thing, just mainly because where they are in the organization history. Like, they
didn't even sign Amari. They drafted him 9th.
Did they? Yeah.
Yeah, so they've never brought on some spectacular free agent.
Which Van Vliet isn't. I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
But that's,
he put up good numbers.
But that's who they're going to have to
settle
with,
But he's not a superstar. Right. No, I would agree. I think that if he can produce even, within the top, 20% of the numbers that he did this year, so, maybe 14 points, 5 assists, you don't need a crazy score alongside Devin Booker.
You need defense,
you need a playmaker. You need a playmaker and a defender. That's what.
No, I think he'll elevate his game in Phoenix. Actually, I didn't think about Phoenix till just now, but I really like Phoenix for Van Vliet, and I think Phoenix should try to make the move to go get him because he's like one of the better free agents, and they have a time bomb like a Devin Booker. I mean, he hasn't made the playoffs, and he's a damn good player, and he's told the Suns that he's frustrated not making the playoffs. So maybe after
he signed for the next 5 years, though. I think 4 now.
Yeah, but players with so much power that they can get moved if they really want to get moved.
No, I know, but they'd get something out of him no matter what. I think that if their play is trying to get more draft picks, they're going to do whatever they want to do. I think this would be a good move for them. I just don't know if they do.
Also, like trading Devin Booker, like you could never trade $1 for like a 4 quarters. Like we've seen that multiple times, never worked out. Like with Kyrie,
they got a whole
Cleveland got nothing. Anthony Davis, he just won a championship his first year with the Lakers. Like Brandon Ingram's good asset, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, but like I don't think those guys will accumulate for who Anthony Davis is and what he will.
Well, I mean, they ended up with Zion because of Anthony Davis.
To the 3-minute mark of the third quarter, Fred VanVleet lines it up.
Well, they got that Zion pick. Just
getting him down in the open floor and also knocking down that
No. They got the 1 pick. No, they got the 4th pick from the Lakers, and they traded that for like Jackson Hayes and like some other guy.
Right. Of course.
I think Alexander. Oh no, they got Zion from Anthony Davis. Then it's a whole different story. Then it's completely different.
Right. Then I think obviously it works out for the Pelicans.
Well, actually no, they did.
Supposed to be their higher pick.
No, they did get the pick. Because Anthony Davis, because the NBA wanted Davis and the Lakers, so they gave Pelicans an 1 pick so they could rebuild and trade Davis.
Right. Well,
but
anyway,
we won't get into that.
Yeah, we won't get into that. Let's move on. I think the next guy we should talk about is DeMar DeRozan. He's an interesting free agent. This last season he averaged 22 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists and a steal. Obviously, he can't really shoot 26% from three, but he's pretty efficient. 53% from the field. He finds a way to make it work. The Spurs obviously have been underwhelming, so nobody necessarily thinks of him as the star that they maybe once did when he was in Toronto. But I would say he's a good pickup because his value is kind of generally diminished from what it used to be, and they a team that maybe just needs something to get over the edge, or maybe a team that is on the brink of making the playoffs, like a Magic, an Orlando Magic team or something like that, needs a guy like that, just a guy that can go out and get you a couple of buckets in crunch time.
And like scoring wise, he's pretty much with his career averages. I mean, like 22 points, like he's averaged around 22, 23 a season. I mean, in 2016, his best season of his career, he averaged 27. But like he's he's diminished a little bit, but he's learned how to score, being not so athletic anymore. So he still brings a lot of value, but it depends what he wants to do because he's 30.
He has a player option still.
Like he's 30 now, and if he signs a 4-year deal, by the time he's 34. Who knows where he's going to be, like in terms of his game. So either he can make a decision to try to join a borderline contender and push him over the top, or maybe get a higher contract and join kind of a borderline playoff team, push him over the top, like the Magic. The Knicks should always throw him an offer.
And the Knicks will throw. I'd like to mention that any of the free agents we discussed today, I feel like the Knicks will throw them an offer.
If Toronto loses Van Leet, maybe go get DeRozan again. I mean, I think that ship has sailed, but still.
It'd make Kyle Lowry happy.
Well, the thing is, you can't
Dallas
discount
Mavericks.
The fact that he's 6'7". He's versatile.
He can play the 2 or the 3.
I mean, the Spurs played him at the 4 half the season.
Right.
And for being 6'7" at the 4, that's not that's not unheard of.
That's not that bad anymore because Bam Adebayo, who we talked about earlier, one of the best centers in the NBA right now.
He's 6'9".
He's 6'9". Yeah.
So being 6'7", he can play the 4. Let's see how many rebounds did he average?
Extremely small ball 5.
He averaged 5 rebounds. So it's not the greatest from your 4, but he's never in a position to get offensive rebounds. You gotta.
But who did Miami run at the 4 this season?
Jay Crowder.
Jay Crowder. Yeah, so
Jay Crowder averaged what, 6-7 rebounds probably at most.
Right, so I'm saying you don't really need your small or your power forward to grab the rebounds like they used to.
Right. Something I'd be interested
in
seeing
because DeRozan's also a playmaker. Not setting up his teammates, but I would say in Dallas' case, if you want to rest Luka, because we can see Luka getting tired and getting frustrated, and maybe not making the best decisions. So if you can bring in a scorer like DeRozan, you can rest Luka and give him the ball and let him go to work, just for a couple minutes at a time. Luka back in that kind of scenario, I can see that working.
That's not such a bad idea.
Not so quite bringing DeRozan off the bench, but having him play with the second string more than he's going to be accustomed to. I think
just work out the minutes where Luka and DeMar are always on the court at the same time. They can obviously both start, but when it comes to benching them.
Right. And I mean, obviously that's a coach's decision, but I think the interesting thing to talk about with DeMar DeRozan is he does have a player option, like Cody said. And that's for
$28 million.
$28 million. He's not going to get that amount of money.
Oh,
so
I didn't know he had a player option.
Should he take that player option and risk kind of losing more value this year, or should he try to get a longer contract? I think personally, he's the kind of guy that if he doesn't mind moving around a little bit after this season, he could take his $28 million, finish his contract out with the Spurs. He'd be 32 years old. He could go to a team like the Orlando Magic that's looking to make the playoffs maybe. Of course, the landscape could change completely.
A year.
Yeah. I mean, I think...
But he could probably still get $22 million out of them for 2 years. I don't think that's that unrealistic.
I think you take the guaranteed money now, especially in DeRozan's case, the NBA is moving away from his style of play.
Right, if he doesn't take this contract...
So his game has become less and less valuable, whether he decreases in his production or not. The game is moving away from his style, so it's only become more relevant when it comes to contributing to a team.
I would agree.
And that's
and I
nothing
think
against
that
his game, but it's just the NBA moving forward so quickly. Like I mean, like we saw players like Carmelo Anthony just get like the rug pulled out from underneath him.
True.
Agreed.
Like Dwight Howard as well. Like a lot of point guards. I mean, like Rondo, he's like just absolutely spectacular at playmaking, so he will still have a job. But like players like that, like they'll get the rug pulled out from underneath them because the game is moving so fast in a certain direction, which is you got your guard and you got your 4 shooters. I mean, like,
yeah.
and if you can't shoot, and then it's hard to implement you because that's what all coaches are looking for now.
Yeah,
I would agree. I would say that I don't think the value of DeMar DeRozan's contract and his kind of him is going to diminish significantly between this year and next year, and I think that's a pretty good reason to just take the contract and run. Take the player option and run, and then try to sign a contract with a team that maybe has too much cap space to know what to do with and needs a player to get over the hump, so to speak.
I agree with that. And I could also see the Spurs actually, if he does accept a player option, maybe trying to trade him, start up something different there in San Antonio.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. They're not big on trading their stars unless they ask to be traded. Like Kawhi begged to be traded. He kind of forced that, but I honestly can't remember the last time the Spurs made a trade that was like a significant
Something
trade.
small, yeah. Like, I think they trade Jakob Pertl, I think. Was the last time I
Yeah,
remember the Spurs trading anyone.
Well, no, that was in DeMar DeRozan's trade to Toronto, I believe. I think it was Kawhi
Yeah,
Leonard
I think so.
for like Jakob Pertl, a pick in DeRozan or something. But I don't know. It's just interesting. I think, isn't that how Danny Green ended up in Toronto as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yep.
I would say
no. Didn't the Spurs trade? No. The Raptors traded him to the Spurs. Jakob Pertl.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, but it was in a trade between the two. I think it was in the same trade, is what I was saying. So the biggest trade one of the only trades they've made in the past few years, was the one that was forced, and they only moved those pieces.
And like their culture, like as long as Pop's there, they're not going to go in rebuilding mode.
Right. They're just going to keep playing basketball.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll miss the playoffs, but it is what it is. So
but keep playing
I think that's a pretty good wrap on DeRozan. I think we can move on to Montrezl Harrell.
Sixth man of the year, correct?
Was he?
I believe he was the one who ended up winning it.
He was?
He got it.
Yeah. So 18 points, or almost 18 and a half points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, a block, half a steal.
He's gonna be another one of those guys that's gonna get damn near a max somewhere.
I would agree. The only thing I would say is that he kind of folded in the playoffs.
He did. He averaged. I think he averaged 2 rebounds in the Denver series, which was a
7-game series.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but
2 rebounds a game for 7 games, when you barely get double-digit rebounds in an entire series,
and you're known as a rebounding hustler.
Right,
like,
and that's
that's when his size really got to him, because Jokic is such a big guy.
He won the Hustle Award this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I just don't. I think that it won't hurt him too bad. I think that his regular season stats will speak for themselves, and there's a lot of people who just need a guy that they think they can rely on, and he is a gritty, kind of grinded out, go get some rebounds, some points. I mean, 19 points a game off the bench almost.
Starting, of course. Yeah, I was about to say his numbers will go up if you put him as a starter somewhere. And give
My question is, why did he not start?
Minutes.
He was like the 3rd best player on that team. I don't know why he didn't start. Was it just
he behind, like Zubac?
Yeah, exactly what it was.
Zubac, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they were kind of marked as like the bench mob, so they just kept them that way. I mean, like they were subbed in like minutes after the game started.
It was a bench you didn't want to go against anyway, with Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell. You don't.
But I mean, they both played 30 minutes a game. I mean.
Yeah, they were basically starters without being starters.
Like I watched a game one time that like Clippers went down 0-5 in the first 30 seconds. They subbed in Lou Will and Harrell. And it's like, dude, just start him at that point. But or at least start one of them.
Right. Well, yeah. That way.
It might come down to an issue of if there's enough ball to go around there with the LA Clippers, so to speak.
Well, no, but they'll play Lou Will and Harrell with the starters. So like, I don't know.
Yeah, then obviously, I mean, I didn't watch much Clippers basketball this year, but if that is the case, then I don't know why they didn't start. They probably would have much better regular season record, I would assume.
No, I mean they played like Jeffrey just said. Montrezl Harrell played 28 minutes a game. It's not necessarily that he's not playing starter minutes. He's just not starting. And I mean Montrezl Harrell's an interesting one, but honestly, it's kind of straightforward. He's gonna draw a max contract from somebody probably, or damn near, and he's gonna go play for them and probably not be the star, I would say. But he's only making $6 million this year, so he's going to follow the money for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Having not been an established player yet, and he's almost 27 years old.
I think he's also the biggest
He
free
needs to go
agent
for the
in
money.
this that is a confirmed free agent.
And he's very durable too. I don't think he hasn't missed a game in a while. I think I remember hearing about that. That Harrell's he's barely missed games in his career.
I'm not positive about that, but
I can't say I really knew who Montrezl Harrell was before, this year or last year, maybe, but I don't think he's been injured that much.
he was on the Rockets before the Clippers. He came over.
Yeah, see, I didn't know
in the Chris Paul trade, I believe.
So he played 76 games in 2018, 82 games 2019. He played 63 games this season.
Well, that was due to the bubble, I believe.
Right.
Right. I don't know if that necessarily accounts for the regular season bubble games either.
So, no.
But no, he's a durable guy, and that speaks for a lot.
And the way he plays for him to be durable, he's banging bodies down low, grabbing rebounds. I mean, yeah, almost any team could benefit from his production and the way he plays.
Right. That is the player that if he gets paid,
6'8".
I think he deserves it.
Because you can put him. Yeah, that's the only issue. He's 6'8".
And he's not a Bam Adebayo kind of distributor either, where 6'8" doesn't really bother you because you're an athletic freak and you can shoot a little bit and you can move extremely fast and you can play incredible defense. He only averaged 1 block a game. He's a hustle guy. He'll get you some points. He can dunk. He can grab some rebounds, but ultimately he's not an incredible big man. I think there's better options. Maybe not this year, but in general, I think that he's not the best. But I think there's another guy on this list who's a better option, and he'll probably draw similar money. So, he's actually not on this list. He's just somebody that I kind of brought up. It was Andre Drummond. I believe he has a player option. However, he's obviously going to take that, and that's the issue because I think it's almost $30 million, right?
Yeah.
So he's probably going to take that, but any team who's looking for a center this year could probably wait because I don't think anybody wants to stay in Cleveland. I'm sorry. Why would you want to stay in Cleveland?
Oh, I forgot that he's
money somewhere else.
Yeah.
I don't think Cleveland's going to offer him another max. I mean, maybe.
I don't even know why they traded for him to begin with.
Me either. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I mean, he is an incredible rebounder. He averages similar points to Montrezl Harrell, double the amount of rebounds, point and another half a block, and he averages 2 steals a game, being 6'11".
Yeah,
he's the same age. He shoots 53% from the field. No, that was I don't know. Anyway,
he's definitely a better option than Harrell.
Similar shooting splits. But just kind of incredible in terms of rebounding. He doubles his rebounding numbers. For every rebound Montrezl Harrell will get you not Dwight Howard. Andre Drummond will grab you 2. And that has a lot to be said. I mean, 7 rebounds. The rebounding battle is a big part of winning basketball games. And if any team could be like, okay, I'm going to plug this guy in and we're going to get 7 more rebounds now, opposed to our other center,
right.
That's a big difference.
That's a lot of,
Andre Drummond's never been put on a team that had the potential to win since he was kind of playing behind Greg Monroe in Detroit, and he was just a kid. I mean, Andre Drummond now is only 27.
I think they got swept by Cleveland that year.
Yeah, I'm not positive, but I mean, Greg Monroe was looked at as the clear-cut kind of number 1 on that team for a long time.
Right.
Maybe not rightfully so, because Andre Drummond is an athletic freak. But I mean, 2 steals a game from your center position, that's pretty incredible.
Speaking about that, anyone heard about Blake Griffin in the past 6 months?
No, is he doing okay?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's still in Detroit.
He is. He's still in Detroit. I just have no idea what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really his fault. It's like the Pistons,
No, the Pistons like to run everybody into the ground. The only guy who's looking to get out of there right now, I think, is Derrick Rose. There's a lot of talks about him going elsewhere, but we'll see. I don't know what the length of his contract is or any of that, but
he's gonna get another 1 year somewhere.
right, probably Los Angeles.
So you guys are
I
talking
wouldn't be
about
surprised.
big men free agents here, and I would like to state one that I think is a better option. Montrezl Harrell doesn't have a player option, so I know he isn't staying with the team. Hassan Whiteside.
Nope.
Hassan Whiteside's kind of toxic and can't really.
He is not better than Harrell.
He's also
He's like his defensive ability is there, but his effort and his mental aspect of the game.
He had 13.5 rebounds per game this season and 3 blocks. The only difference you're losing here is the points per game. You're losing about 2.
He also played. He also played 30 minutes a game, and
I mean, the minutes per game isn't.
In the
There's
past,
not a big difference there. But.
No, but what I'm saying is, in the past, I mean, also, I'm just saying, if he was playing less minutes and averaged these kind of numbers, I mean, if you're looking for a guy like Hassan Whiteside, the problem is he's 32 years old, so if you sign him to a long contract, there's no way he's going to keep averaging 3 blocks a game. And he's kind of a locker room poison.
Right, okay, so I will say this, that he proved, I'm not sure if he proved himself, but he did a good job in Portland this year. He played well, he did well, he bought into the system, and then when Nurkic came back, he had no problem coming off the bench, but that is nowhere near make up to what he did in Miami.
Literally just not playing.
While he was on the Heat, he was shit talking Spoelstra.
Yeah.
And
I just think there's kind of no redeeming yourself after being that shitty of a teammate.
Yeah,
I think he still has the potential to be a starter somewhere though for another season or 2. Personally,
I just personally wouldn't. He's got a big ego.
I wouldn't pay him a long-term deal because you don't know what he's get. You don't know how he's gonna act.
I wouldn't pay him anywhere near what I would pay Montrezl Harrell. So if you can get him for a similar price tag, and especially after Hassan Whiteside, seeing his numbers the way that you did, Cody, he's gonna want the same kind of money that people are offering Montrezl Harrell, and I think Montrezl Harrell's worth more because he's younger and he's kind of just less of a poison.
Yeah, especially on the Heat, you don't fuck around with the Heat front office. Like you saw with Dion Waiters. He's gone because he was acting up.
Waiters got the boot real quick. The only problem with Whiteside is it took a while to get him.
Because they overpaid him because of his one season, and so another team is not going to overpay him or pay him a lot of money for another long-term deal because Miami didn't play that dude for damn near a year because they couldn't move his contract, so no other team is going to sign him to any type of contract like that again.
Also, he's great for being a paint anchor if you don't want your center to move at all, but he's not nearly as mobile as Montrezl Harrell.
And Harrell just has more fight. We
were talking about with Bam Adebayo, being mobile at the center position is a big thing. He might be 4 inches shorter, but if you can move across a paint, 1.5 times as fast, if you can't get there, it doesn't matter how tall you are. If you're on the other side of the rim, it doesn't make a damn difference.
Well said.
All right, that's fair.
So Goran Dragic is interesting because obviously
Sixth-man of the year candidate.
Goran Dragic started.
Didn't he start?
He was a 6th-man of the year candidate this year, I believe. If we look back on it,
I think. Oh wait, yeah, no. Yeah, no.
During the regular season,
none started.
It wasn't until finals. Finals, he started because Kendrick Nunn missed the first 2 weeks of practice due to having COVID, and he had to be pulled from the bubble one other time for family issues.
Interesting.
Well,
I think that it's kind of like Montrezl Harrell, a starting caliber player that's just playing off the bench because they can.
And his
Goran Dragic, right? Goran Dragic. First of all, he has gray hair, so anybody in the NBA who has gray hair isn't somebody you want to sign to a long-term big contract. I think that,
and when the commentators say he's not aging,
right? The Heat would be intelligent to try to get him back on a long-term deal because that's the kind of guy they want. He fits the culture, and that's their big thing. But another team shouldn't offer him big money.
We did talk about that earlier with the whole Giannis situation. Like, so this is one of the players that they're gonna have to decide whether they keep him, because I think Dragic would definitely be willing to come back,
right,
because of the championship run that they had, and they can pay him because they did clear up the cap space for Giannis next season, but they might want to utilize that cap space on the players they have now, because they got a couple other players entering free agency as well. And I think, and they'll have to pay Bam next year as well, I think. Yep. But
I just know that
he's restricted, so it doesn't matter. But
it doesn't always work to kind of dump the guys off that created your culture and kind of feed into that just to get a guy that's better on paper. Like, the Warriors destroyed their, like, look at the season they just had. Golden State, they just destroyed their culture, and they ended up with a bunch of young guys that they have to teach now, alongside Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, because they got rid of all of their good role players. And obviously those guys would be old by now, but they got rid of all their experienced veterans for a guy who decided to play a couple seasons, get hurt, and then leave.
Right, but like they also got 2 championships out of it, so it's time. Like he's gonna have to make that decision. It's definitely like both decisions are definitely logical for where they, especially since they went on the finals run, especially because they were 2 wins away from winning the finals. You win a championship, but that's just a decision that you're gonna have to make. But if he resigns, Dragic and Crowder, and I think there's one other guy in that team. Is it Duncan Robinson? No, it's not Duncan Robinson.
Duncan Robinson is a second-year player, so.
Are you talking about old players? Are you talking about Andre Iguodala?
No, just players that have expiring contracts. Anyways, but they could sign him and then trade him away. But you have to trade those contracts for other contracts, so you damn near give those pieces away anyways. So it's, it's tough. It's tough. But for teams,
Myers Leonard's also expiring. Derek Jones Jr. is expiring. So a few of their key role players. I mean, Udonis Haslem's probably retiring, right?
Leonard has a big contract, so that's coming off the books.
I've thought Udonis Haslem's been retiring for the past 2 years.
Yeah, Myers Leonard.
It's hard to tell.
40 years old, still playing. Jimmy Butler's got a giant contract, and Jimmy Butler's only making more every year. Like, by 2022-23 season, he's making $37 million a year.
I think he's deserving of it.
Oh, no, absolutely.
I wouldn't say he's not.
No, I'm just saying, like damn, man.
I mean, Andre Iguodala for next 2 years in Miami is making a flat rate of $15 million. I could see the Heat offering Dragic a very similar contract to that.
He's making 19 now, so they'd be saving themselves money if they could give Dragic.
They'd be saving about they'd save $4 or $5 million.
And Dragic is 34, so he's gonna be 36 by the time his next contract's up if he does sign a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
I think he knows damn well that at 36 years old he's not going to be worth $15 million in what the $15 million means right now in the NBA at least.
I would love to see him go to the Mavericks. I want every free agent to go to the Mavericks. The Mavericks are going to be a crazy good team next year. And super fun to watch.
Just want to put together a European super team in Dallas real quick.
Right. No, I think he'll be good off the bench over there.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And he's willing to take a bench role, obviously.
After next season, so.
Like, he pretty much has to sign. Unless it's very rare for a player to pick up their +1 and then go into free agency. Because their financial advisor tell them, take the money when it's there. So if you can sign an extension, especially being young and being on a promising team, I don't see why there would be any issue re-signing Bam. I mean, they are going to have to sign him to a max contract.
Right.
But I don't see any issue there. They're going to have Bam and Jimmy for a while. And that's part of the culture, too. Like we said, don't dump the culture. If you dump the culture, then maybe the team is not the same. But also, if you get Giannis Antetokounmpo,
Giannis will fit the Miami Heat culture fine as well.
Oh yeah,
anyway.
Yeah,
they love workhorses there, and Giannis definitely comes off.
What I'm saying, if you dump some of the guys that help build that culture, not build it, but add on to the culture and continue it, and then you have to kind of bring in guys to replace them when you don't get Giannis, the people that don't fit well. It's definitely a risk. But as we saw in Oklahoma, or not Oklahoma, and in Golden State, that risk brought them 2 championships. So
right, and maybe it's worth it for them. I'm not sure that in the current landscape of the NBA, it would be worth it. There's obviously there's no guarantees. So looking back on it, it worked out for Golden State, but there's no guarantees. I wouldn't necessarily recommend following the Golden State blueprint. So,
but I don't. They would definitely make it to the finals though, and I don't know if they can. Like, I don't know if they can run it back to the finals this upcoming year.
I would agree. Everybody's getting older. I mean, obviously.
They definitely have a shot, but I mean, Boston's gonna get better. Toronto's still gonna be there. You got Brooklyn. Nobody even thought about Brooklyn yet, and they got a superstar in Kevin Durant, and like
I kind of forgot Brooklyn's even on the map anymore.
Exactly,
due to Kyrie and Kevin Durant not being around.
I was gonna say the only time we brought up Brooklyn in this entire podcast was when I once said a caveat and said that maybe AD and LeBron are the best two players in the NBA, aside from Kevin Durant, provided he plays anything like he did before.
Well, I'm just gonna say LeBron and AD because they haven't even played together, and Kyrie, like, he can't even stay on the court. So. No,
I don't mean the best duo. I mean individually, they might be the two best players in the NBA in terms of what they bring to a team. I mean, Giannis obviously because he wins MVP. Right. He might win it again this year, being on a team that doesn't have a second star.
Right.
Obviously, that's beneficial to his game statistically. But
so you
got 2 of the top 5 for sure, like you said.
So you got Brooklyn, Boston, Toronto.
Toronto's probably going to lose.
And Milwaukee and Miami. So you got like the top 5 there, unless I'm missing someone.
Right. Indiana's going to lose Victor Oladipo, and he hasn't really played much. So.
Well, dude, I don't know about Philly. It's so
Philadelphia's going to be weird. Philadelphia's going to be weird.
Dude, no, Joel Embiid, it's definitely tough in the East.
Yeah. The thing with Philly, just real
East
quick.
Is tightly packed.
Doc Rivers, there's been rumors that Doc Rivers is going to try to trade Ben Simmons out west. I don't think it'd be a bad idea. Because I don't think Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid can play together, and I think that I don't know which one you keep. Honestly,
do you think you trade Ben Simmons to Timberwolves #1 pick?
Man, that's tough.
Because that's the thing.
Yeah, I'd do it.
Then you're starting the process all over again that they were.
I don't think you're starting it all over again. Well, they need to do something different because they had.
Actually, you're right. You're not starting it all over. They still have Josh Richardson. They still have Al Horford, right?
Well, they blew their best chance with Simmons, Butler, Harris, and Embiid last year versus Toronto. And then this year they got swept by the Celtics with a max contract Harris, a max contract Simmons, and a max contract Embiid.
Yeah, I would say you go for it.
Maybe you throw in Josh Richardson and you could swing D'Lo in the pick. But I would draft LaMelo or Edwards.
I wouldn't even worry about D'Lo. The thing is with Ben Simmons, you're so limited because you then don't have the 4 shooters on the floor you need no matter what. Because Embiid, it shouldn't be on the perimeter. He's the best low post player in the league.
Right.
You put Embiid on the perimeter, he's immediately half as effective as he was before. And you can't put Ben Simmons anywhere but the point guard. But then your point guard can't shoot at all.
I think Doc will bring the best out of Embiid if he goes back to when he played with KG, but also like the low post is kind of forgotten now. Like you saw Philadelphia every single game of that Celtics series, first quarter, and beating the post every single possession, and then after the first quarter they kind of drifted away from it because it's just like a forgotten art.
Right.
They go to it and it was working, and Embiid would get 50 points the first quarter, but they would also use them every possession and you get tired. Like Embiid needs to lose some weight. But losing weight will make him less effective in the post, just because he doesn't have the size. But he needs to be able to play 70 games. He needs to be able to play 35 minutes a game and be effective in the fourth quarter.
I would agree. One thing I would say, though, is I don't necessarily mean feed him in the post, but as a rebounder or kind of just someone to keep, in a pick and roll situation, kind of the same way that the Miami Heat used Bam. Right. He's not as mobile as Bam is, but he's still pretty athletic, and I think he's more well-versed. Like, he's a better shooter at the mid-range especially. I think he's more effective in terms of, like, actually being in the post and rebounding and kind of being an anchor down there. I think that Doc Rivers will use him properly.
Well, the thing about Philadelphia is, like, this past season, they didn't have a closer. Like, Embiid can start the game off really well and get you a bucket in the first half, but when it comes fourth quarter time, Embiid is gassed. He's gassed, so he can't go out and get you a bucket. You don't want to rely on Ben Simmons to go out and get yourself a bucket. And then Tobias Harris, he was kind of a disappointment this year. I mean, Josh Richardson at some points in the fourth quarter, he was their offense and he was getting the buckets.
Which is
Like-
something that he's always been able to do.
Right,
Yep,
but you need
even
someone
when he was
higher
in
caliber
Miami,
than that
yeah.
if you're gonna go that way.
I would agree.
I
would agree.
I think they should trade Ben Simmons for a pick because I don't know. Yeah,
I
no,
think so
it,
too,
it's tough.
honestly.
It's tough if they can trade him number 1 and get the pick, and I think they'll have to get another player for them to make it okay. Like maybe not D'Lo caliber because it might be a little too much. Like like Malik Beasley. Maybe get
That's
a third team in
developing
there.
player, yeah.
I think if they grab a Malik Beasley, take the pick, you have Ben Simmons' contract off the books, and then they can go for one of the next guys on our list. I think it would be a good fit. Maybe if you could find a way to get rid of Tobias Harris, Danilo Gallinari.
Gallinari would be a great pickup for the Philadelphia 76ers, actually, with the way his game works.
Well, that's
Putting
given
a
that
one
they.
shooter
thing they've
around-
always missed is
Well, that's
shooting.
given if they shift all these pieces too. Like,
Right, of course.
Right, but
I mean, Danilo Gallinari is an intriguing player for any team with 18, almost damn near 19 points a game, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, almost a steal. I mean,
He plays
he's
the
not
3
he's
through
not a
5.
lockdown defender.
I mean,
He's not a lockdown defender by any means, but he shot 40% from 3 this year and 44% from the field, so he's fairly efficient. And he can score. I mean,
oh,
even
yeah.
on the Clippers last year, he averaged even more points. So I really think that's a guy to look out for.
You can run him at your center. You can run him at your small forward. It's not his best position. I don't think either one of those. He fits perfectly at the 4 as a shooter, but
I don't know. I wouldn't have any problem putting him at the 3. I
the
think
3,
at the
no.
4 is
I
a
was
little
more
small. Yeah,
referring
but
to
it's
the
fine.
5. I think he's a little bit small.
I think
on
Gallinari's a
strength
4
wise
now.
for 5. Yeah, he is a
I'd play him
4.
at the 4,
I would too.
He just doesn't grab that many rebounds, so as long as you have a dominant center, you should be okay.
which
Yeah.
they have, which they would, hypothetically,
Right,
which they would have
right.
in Embiid.
The 76ers would have. Yeah, I just mean
Right.
in general.
Yeah,
He can go somewhere. I could see him going to the Magic. I could see him ending up there.
That's the thing. The Magic will throw money at anybody, and people are willing to live in Florida. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting what the Thunder do with Chris Paul and Gallinari, because I think they let go of Billy Donovan because I think they're ready to rebuild now.
Yeah. So you're not
Because-
going to bring back a 32-year-old Gallinari if you're trying to go into rebuild mode. I don't believe.
Right, but I do. I mean, you do you didn't I do agree with bringing in some veterans to teach them how to win, because we saw in Philadelphia, if they had veterans when those players kind of growing up in the league, I feel like they would be a lot better at closing games just because having that experience and seeing it firsthand.
Mhm.
Which I think Philadelphia missed. And like in a lot of teams that tank, underrate that. They get a role player and they trade it for a young player immediately. Like-
Mhm.
Same thing in Phoenix. They haven't really won much. I mean, they are winning now, and they could definitely make the 8-7 seed next year. But they don't have a lot of good role players on that team that teach them how to win. And that's what that's what the Thunder did for a year with Chris Paul and Gallinari, and now Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and some of the younger guys know how to win, especially for the guards playing with Chris Paul like that. Playing with Chris Paul for a year for Shai was huge. I mean, that's gonna drastically improve him.
Right.
May I say here that reportedly by CBS Sports News, Gallinari said, quote unquote, competing for a championship is more important than his contract. So he wants to go to a championship contender this year.
I think that if he goes to the Philadelphia 76ers and they get a guy like LaMelo, who is proven overseas in professional basketball, he's a big guy. I mean, tall, athletic. He's proven he can play against grown men. I think that he's an established scorer, and I think Gallinari, LaMelo, and Embiid have a chance, right? Especially within the term of Gallinari's contract. I think
That just
they're
depends.
absolutely
In
okay.
that situation depends on who you also have at your 2 and your 3 after
think-
all is said and done.
I think that team. Well, if they do get a Malik Beasley in the trade, damn, we should just get a trade simulator up in here.
Yeah.
Who needs one when you are one?
Yeah, we are the trade simulator,
Um,
actually. We work out the contract math in our head, and we're like, yeah, sure, it works out, I think.
I think with a core, LaMelo, Gallo, and Bede, second round exit. Just
it's much better than
right what they
Furkan,
had. But like I'm saying, like LaMelo
And
being,
LaMelo's
being the
going to
point guard.
develop.
But we'll definitely talk about the draft and the draft prospects and the possibilities for teams.
Right. Next time.
Later in the month. We're
Right.
getting closer to that.
Right.
I think the last guy I really want to hit on was Jordan Clarkson.
Absolutely.
If the Lakers could pick him up, that would be interesting. Having a
Right.
scorer off the bench.
I feel like I've seen him play there before or something.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
he'd look good in the uniform. Anyway,
I think he'd look great in a Lakers jersey.
71 games played this season, rather durable. 15 points a game, 2.5 rebounds, 2 assists. Not much on defense, but the Lakers are kind of set there with Anthony Davis, LeBron. You know, they kind of have their anchors, but he's a 37% three-point shooter and a 45% shooter from the field. So obviously that's what they thought Danny Green was coming into this season, and that was only in 24 minutes a game. He averaged 15 points. He's not a player that's going to fetch a max contract, probably. He's 28 years old.
Unless it's the Knicks.
Right. He might look... It all depends on what he wants to do. He might look to win because he's like, look, I only have so much longer. Or the more intelligent thing might be to look for the money. So look for the money in a place, hopefully, that you have a chance to win. But
the best case scenario.
Right.
It doesn't always happen.
Right. But I think that he has the potential to be an interesting guy.
Dallas Mavericks, baby.
Oh my god.
When did you become a Dallas fan all of a sudden?
He's not.
I'm not. I
He's
just
stupid.
He just thinks every player is going to Dallas Mavericks this offseason. They're going to have a 30-man roster that can run 20 deep.
Dude, because Dallas is going to be nasty next year.
No, you're not wrong. They were pretty good this year, but
if I wanted them to get Clay last year. That would have been crazy.
I've always
would be
heard
crazy.
rumors about them actually wanting to go after Vucevic from Orlando, actually.
I think that was
I heard-
before Kristaps.
I heard that a couple times. But I don't know why you would run.
It was
two guys
actually
that-
it was
that are
post
that big.
Kristaps. I know that.
They run
much,
Kristaps
but-
at the center
Yeah,
most of the
so-
time.
Unless they're looking for a center off the bench, but even then, I don't think it's absolutely necessary.
Like,
I wouldn't put
think it'd be much
Vucevic off
better
the
to-
bench. I think he's at least good enough to be a starter.
Not better than Kristaps, and you don't
Well,
need two
no.
7-footers on the floor.
Yeah.
Do you want to be able to play?
Just like the
defense?
Mavericks
I
are
mean,
so entertaining to watch.
yeah,
I love
agree.
watching Luka.
Luka is. I was gonna say if there's an award for like most exciting and entertaining player to watch, it might be Luka.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. It's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not giving him the MVP award, but
So
most
what?
entertaining to watch.
So what team should pick up Jordan Clarkson? Do you think it would work?
Ooh, that's a hard
Yeah.
one. Honestly, I think that-
Phoenix.
All right.
The
First.
team-
Would you, if you pick up Jordan Clarkson, would you run him off the bench?
Yeah,
It depends on
Okay.
where he goes.
yeah.
I mean,
I
'cause, like
would-
if
here's what I
it's
would
in a
do.
situation with the LA Lakers, I mean, I'm starting him over Danny Green. I think.
Yeah, but I mean, he
I'm
has
not
to
starting
play.
him over Kentavious Caldwell-Pope.
He plays like a sixth man now. Like I feel like he fits
That's
that
true.
mold perfectly.
He does fit a 6-man mold very well.
Like,
I do agree with that.
Like Cleveland doesn't get a lot of things right, but they got right to bring Clarkson off the bench, even though they started someone who's
I could
not as
see.
good.
So let's say the Heat do go after Giannis and everything. Maybe they leave Dragic behind, somewhere off in free agency. Depends on how much Jordan Clarkson wants. He could pick up that. He could fill in that role that Goran Dragic had in Miami of being the 6-man off the bench.
Yeah.
From the Heat's
Well, I was
perspective,
actually
I
gonna
think I'd rather
say-
get Dragic back because I think
I
Clarkson.
mean, of course, I think I'd rather
Right.
have Dragic back as well.
Right.
But I'm saying if there's some contract issues to bring in Giannis and Dragic wants more than what the Heat are willing to pay
Yeah.
or can pay him, and Jordan Clarkson doesn't want that.
well, I
That
think
was actually one of my thoughts. I mean, there's also always the possibility that he goes back to Utah.
Yep.
yeah,
That's where
for
he
sure.
found the most success, and they are a good team. They have a chance. He's coming off the bench.
They
After
definitely have
Donovan
enough
Mitchell,
cap
there's
to
no
pay
pressure.
him.
There's no pressure for him. He's not a big
Right.
name guy on that team. He's coming off the bench, following up Donovan Mitchell or Mike Conley, who are
and like
both good.
he's a very below average defender, And at the front court or the back court, sorry, you have Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell, two very solid wing defenders, and then you got Rice O'Neal, also a good defender. So Clarkson coming off the bench, like obviously you want to play defense, and the coaches want you to play defense, but he doesn't have to worry about stopping anybody because he normally played either with Mike Conley or with Donovan Mitchell. So from the backcourt, either one of those guys picked up the best kind of wing player. So I think
Agreed.
Clarkson could be on that team and not worry about defense as much. He can worry about his offense, which is his bread and butter, which he's good at. So
Right. I think that's not only the most realistic situation, but I think it's probably the best for his career. And there's some more significant ones. There's a lot of guys on with options, whether it be team, ETO, like Mike Conley, or a player option like most of these guys have, Gordon. I think that these are kind of the most interesting that we thought might actually move or might make a big impact on a team if they were to move. So with that said, thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you again in about a week, and we hope you have a great day. Thank you very much for tuning into this episode of the Before the Buzzer podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard here today, like, subscribe, and share it to your friends. New episodes airing every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. That's a wrap.